Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Friday, around the nation, right here. Jeff Waldorf here with you, and this Friday evening, end of the week, man. Thank goodness. Look, after this week, and pretty much after every week, could use a break from the news, but nonetheless, we got a lot of fun stories for you today. Not necessarily fun, but of course, disastrous mix as usual. We have, of course, Kellyanne Conway cheering on basically the indictment of a former Obama official. It's related to the story of Gregory Craig. And she gets slammed on social media. That's always fun. Then we have Lou Dobbs having to take back and do a very, very strange correction. On a misleading graphic. That's fun. Then we have policy stuff. We're going to talk about Elizabeth Warren's new policy to go after corporate profits. I think it's a great policy. I'll give you the details on that. Then we have the smears against Bernie Sanders from the Center for American Progress. So I'm going to explain. I'll show you that the video along with it. And that is how the establishment is fighting Bernie Sanders. And then we also have the AIPAC story as well that I've been teasing for you for the earlier this week. That's also another way that the establishment is fighting against Senator Sanders. So that said, that's kind of our breakdown. It's going to be a fun, interesting show, to say the least. So please like and share the stream if you haven't already. Before we get into it, I'm going to thank some supporters. First, we'll go to YouTube memberships. We have new members, Demos Aries, and Elijah Emote, and Mary Ann Kane. So thank you, the three of you, for signing up to be channel members. Obviously, that goes to help the show, so thank you so much for doing that. All right. Then we also have patrons, patreon.com/TYTNation. I want to give a shout out to Mitch Craik, Grant Keeling, Joe Roberts, Thomas Johnson, Matt Fontana, and Susan Garbowitz. So thank you to all of those people as well. Those people have signed up to support us on Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation. By the way, you can get the full show ad-free anytime you want. You sign up to be a patron over $3. So that's a level 2 member. There's I got different levels. Level 1 members just $1. That's general support. Level 2 and up, you get the show ad free. So if you like that, sign up. Support independent progressive media. All right. That said, before I get into this, I do want to bring you some breaking news. So related to, of course, Donald Trump and the border. Okay, so let me do that. All right. So the New York Times with a breaking story about President Trump and his efforts to close the border. It appears, and this is by a story a story by Maggie Haberman, Annie Carney, and Eric Schmidt, writing for the New York Times. They said that President Trump had actually tried to close the border last week. Now, they said that he urged Kevin McAleenan, who he was about to name as acting Secretary of Homeland Security, to close the border with Mexico, despite having previously said that he was going to delay the decision to close the border for a year, which, look, we all know that's illegal anyway, so he can't actually do that. But he's threatening to anyway. Now, he is also, what's breaking about this, and very interesting, is actually what he allegedly said to Mr. McAleenan about if he ran into legal resistance. Apparently, he told him that he would pardon him if he encountered any legal problems as a result of closing the border. Hey, man, look, if you close the border for me and you close the southwestern border, then I'll pardon you if you get into any legal trouble. Well, again, that is illegal for anyone to close the southwestern border, especially since immigration judges or just regular federal judges have already blocked the administration's attempt to try to close the border or keep people that are seeking asylum out of the country. So, look, this would be an illegal order. Now, it's the same reason that Kirstjen Nielsen was booted from the administration, while so many others were booted from the administration. They would not follow Donald Trump's illegal orders. Now, one of the people briefed in the conversation said, well, I mean, maybe it was just a joke, right? No, the conversation, which took place during the president's visit to Calexico, California, or Calexico, sorry, words are hard, California, had alarmed officials at the Department of Homeland Security who were told about it. They also said, let's see, this was before, like I said, Kirstjen Nielsen, and then now Kirstjen Nielsen gone. Now you have Michelinen, sorry, I have a hard time with that name, to try to do this himself. Now, I don't know if he's going to do it. I doubt it, because even though he probably does, actually, no, from what I hear and have read over the past couple of days, is that he's not quite as tough on the border as Trump would like him to be. So, doubtful he's going to last in that position for very long. But apparently, he was already asked by Trump, you're going to close down the border for me. All right, I want you to close down the southwestern border to stop the immigrants from coming in. And he's going to be like, yeah, that's not going to happen. So, but again, more illegal orders or possible illegal orders. Look, he doesn't care about rule of law. He doesn't care about, the Constitution. He doesn't care about what the federal judges are saying. He just wants the border closed because he's displaying basically proto-fascist tendencies, trying to do things via illegal order, trying to bypass the Senate confirmation process by putting everybody in who he knows cannot be approved by the Senate, will not be approved by the Senate, into these positions. So you look down the line, everybody in these top positions are just acting heads up. Again, that's something that fascists do. That's something that someone like Donald Trump, who craves more authority, craves more power, would do to try to bypass the Senate confirmation process. So this is deeply disturbing. And look, is it time for impeachment yet? I mean, is it time for impeachment? Is it time for the 25th Amendment? He's both insane and also mad with power. And so we got to get rid of this guy one way or the other, and we got to do it soon. Okay. Well, that's it on that. Man. All right. Moving on. So Kellyanne Conway was corrected by social media after she claimed that Gregory Craig was the only person indicted in the Mueller investigation. Now, she tweeted this, breaking news, finally, White House official indicted in connection with the Mueller investigation. Now, Gregory Craig, of course, was a former Obama official, and he was indicted on charges that he had made false statements to investigators about his relationship with Ukrainian officials and actually had been working along with Paul Manafort in order to lobby on behalf of a foreign government. So now Manafort, of course, was charged as being a foreign agent, and now he's going to be serving prison time. So now, what's fun about this is that she seems to have forgotten other people that happen to have been also indicted and given prison time in connection with the Mueller investigation. Now, social media actually did remind her of this. And I'm going to go to some tweets here. Chris McGarrigan says, somebody seems to have forgotten Michael Flynn, President Trump's first national security advisor. Again, that's a great point. Michael Flynn also indicted. There's more. Parker Malloy says maybe he can share a cell with Michael Flynn. Another White House official indicted in the Mueller investigation. Drew McDowell points out, hey, wait a minute, I thought this was a witch hunt. So now that, of course, goes to President Trump changing his position on the Mueller investigation. First, it's a witch hunt. First, it's terrible. Then it's a complete and total exoneration of me and everything. Okay, but what about all the other people that happen to have gotten charged in relation, in connection to this investigation? A lot of people in your inner circle, people who had served in your campaign, ending up going to prison or getting indicted. Weird. Now, Aaron Altman says, Michael Flynn, again, very simple, pointing to Flynn. Now, DMW, with some background information on Greg Craig. Craig worked for Obama in 2009, 2010, left and became a partner at the New York-based law firm Skadden, Arps, Slate, Meagher, and Flom LLP, which assisted GOP lobbyist and former Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort in his work lobbying for pro-Russian politicians in Ukraine. Nice try. Well done. Sue ZQ says, quote, 1, crimes committed 2 years after leaving the White House. 2, crimes were committed while he was helping Paul Manafort. Interesting. Do better, Kellyanne. Now, there might be a reason why she's doing so poorly. According to Stephen Huck, she's still traumatized by the Bowling Green massacre. 70 Million Jobs says, he was arrested through his representation of your campaign manager. Give him some thought as to what you gloat about, Kellyanne. Shannon Warner asks, so I guess this wasn't a witch hunt then, huh? And finally, Chuck Mararchi points out what I think is obvious for a lot of Kellyanne and Donald Trump's tweets. This tweet's not going well for you, is it? No. It never does. Because unfortunately, when you're someone like Kellyanne Conway, who is a proven pathological liar on behalf of the president, it never seems to go well for you. And it never will. Okay. So let's go to Lou Dobbs. Just real quick here. So Fox News host Lou Dobbs was forced to issue a little bit of an uncomfortable on-air correction after the president tweeted out a graphic from his show showing his job approval numbers. Now, during the Lou Dobbs program on Wednesday, Dobbs talked about the president's, quote, soaring and robust approval rating while airing a graphic from a Georgetown University poll. Now, look, I'll show you that graphic right now. Here. So, oh my God, look, Trump's soaring approval, 55% overall and 58% in the economy. Oh man, Donald Trump is doing fantastic. I mean, he is broke 50%. That is something that he has not been able to do his entire presidency. Which, of course, shouldn't surprise you, the fact that it's fake, it's literal fake news, it's not real. Now, in reality, according to this poll, he's nowhere near 55%. Trump's job approval rating is 43%, which is about standard. It's actually a little bit higher than what I would expect it to be. Now, that is despite what that 58% number of voters basically approving of the president's handling of the economy, 58%. So now, where's the 55? Well, it turns out that is his unfavorability rating. Oops. Now, of course, Donald Trump, we know he doesn't read, right? He watches Fox News. He loves Lou Dobbs. So he grabs the graphic and he tweets it out And by the way, that tweet, as of like 2 hours ago, still live. So this is after the correction happened. It's Friday. This happened, the correction happened yesterday. The tweet is still out. Now, I want to go to some of the corrections. First, let's go to Fox Business Network reporter Blake Berman. Now, he explained that the president's tweet, quote, featured a poll that was not entirely accurate. And the job approval number Dobbs touted on air was, quote, those who have an unfavorable impression of the president, of President Trump. Okay, that's a correction. Fox News White House correspondent Kevin Corke also talked about this on air, said there was a typo in the graphic. No, that's not quite true. They swapped the numbers. And then when it came to Dobbs' turn to set the record straight, here's what he said.
We have new poll numbers tonight on a growing issue, at least amongst the radical Dems, that we'd like to share with you tonight. But before we get to those numbers, I'd like to repair something I got wrong last night, incorrectly reporting that a Georgetown poll showed the president had an overall approval rating of 55%. The number, in fact, is 43%. That same poll found that President Trump has a 58% approval rating for the handling of the economy. Now to those numbers on reparations, and I assure you, at least most of these numbers are correct. Just kidding. Just kidding. A new Rasmussen poll reveals that only 21%.
Okay. So, slightly uncomfortable, but okay. Made a little bit of a joke out of it. Sometimes we get it wrong. I've gotten it wrong before, so I know what it's like to issue those corrections, right? But I love how we went right into the positive spin, right? Oh, I mean, hey, look, 58% think the president is doing a pretty good job in the economy, so everything's forgiven, right? Oh, by the way, reparations. Let's go talk about that. You think that's an accident? No, of course. Yeah, I'm sure you was going to talk about reparations anyway. But just kind of back-ending it onto that poll and saying, okay, let's go to the reparations question, which, of course, do you know the Fox News audience, they're going to get a little bit worked up over that idea and then forget about the disastrous poll. Not a coincidence. And look, there's a reason that Lou Dobbs is Donald Trump's favorite host. Because he does fan service like this, and he does spin like this, and he makes sure to make the president look really, really good. And he has been rewarded. I've read stories, and I think I presented them before, where Lou Dobbs is one of the people from Fox News that literally gets patched in to Oval Office meetings with Trump. And I told you, he gets his policy positions from Fox News. He'll call up Fox News hosts and be like, man, that was a great policy. It was a great idea. I'm going to now enact that policy. Disastrous. And even though he was forced to make a correction by Fox News, he did so in a way to try to not alienate President Trump. Now, what's interesting about that is that Fox News has been making a lot of corrections lately, which is very, very interesting. So it might make you think that some of the leadership is saying, we've got to do some damage control here so that we don't look like the propaganda arm of Donald Trump. Now, in reality, they are the propaganda arm, but they're trying to put in some effort to make it at least seem that they're trying to be a little bit responsible. So they are trying, but unfortunately for them, I think most of us see through it. Okay. So let's get to some policy. Elizabeth Warren has a brand new tax proposal to go after corporate profits. Now, she's recently touted something called the Real Corporate Profits Tax. And according to CNBC, it would apply to worldwide profits exceeding $100 million for any company. Now, Warren wrote in a Medium post published on Thursday, that it will make our biggest and most profitable corporations pay more and ensure that none of them can ever make billions and pay zero taxes again. To raise the revenue we need and ensure every corporation pays their fair share, we need a new kind of tax that big companies can't get around. And so far, right now, of course, we have loopholes upon loopholes, offshore tax havens, all sorts of vehicles for corporations to not pay any taxes. Now, the timing was great here because it was just recently reported that 60 of the largest, most profitable companies paid no taxes thanks to the Trump tax cuts. Now, wait a minute. I thought Republicans said we're gonna lower the rates, but we're gonna close all the loopholes. And the corporations, they're gonna pay the same. I mean, they're gonna pay the same rate. And actually, they might actually pay a little bit more. I mean, Donald Trump said, I'm going to lose out on this tax deal. BS. Total BS. Now, two of them were referenced in this policy, and that's Amazon and Occidental Petroleum. Now, Amazon reported $10 billion in profits for 2018, but also noted that they did not pay a cent in taxes. Nothing. Occidental Petroleum reported $4.1 billion in profits, but also paid nothing in federal taxes. Well, that would seem to be a bit of a problem, but a direct result from the Trump tax cuts. Now, Elizabeth Warren's new tax would prevent them and other companies with profits exceeding $100 million from basically zeroing out their tax liabilities. So now, how do they do that? Well, instead of taxable corporate income as defined by the IRS, the 7% surtax would apply to profits companies report to their investors. So now that's smart, right? So now it's easier for them to get away from taxing, to dodge their way out of paying income tax, right? Corporate income tax. So the response is, let's tax your profit. Now, CNBC explains why that there is a good reason to do that. They said because stock values and executive compensation turn on those public reports, corporations don't obscure their real profits to shareholders with the write-offs they use for the IRS. So now those write-offs include large deductions for depreciation, the value of stock options, and overseas tax shelters. So here we go. We have another detailed policy proposal taxing corporations and helping reduce income inequality. Now, they also note that the new surtax would be separate from the existing corporate tax, and if applied in 2018, Warren said, Amazon would end up owing about $698 million and Occidental Petroleum $280 million. And that is just with that, right? Now, that is not an insignificant amount of money, especially when you're looking at these two very profitable companies. Now, if you apply that to all these companies, then you could raise quite a bit of money. Now, of course, the argument against this is you're likely going to hear about how it's terrible for small business, right? Oh, small business is going to be impacted by this. No, it's not. It's not true. Again, they're focusing on companies that make over $100 million in profit. And Warren aides, University of California, Berkeley economist Emmanuel Saez and Gabriel Zuckman explained that an estimated 1,200 public companies would be subject to the tax if it took effect in 2019. 1,200 companies. Warren also said that she designed it to avoid hitting small businesses or even larger ones that have a bad year. And that actually sounds kind of fair. Now, she's also proposed, along with this, an increase in the estate taxes and a wealth tax on the richest Americans. Now, she wants to use the money from the estate tax to fund affordable housing, which I think is a great idea. Now, the wealth tax would raise about $2.7 trillion over the next 10 years, according to projection, and roughly $700 million from the wealth tax would finance her proposal for universal child care and early childhood education. So that's what she plans to do with it. So now, of all the candidates, Warren continues to put out incredibly detailed policy proposals. She's pretty much even with Bernie Sanders when it comes to putting out bold progressive proposal. I think it's great. Now she is showing that she is absolutely a policy wonk. I mean, that's her thing. That's her bread and butter. That's what she does. So I actually think it's kind of a shame that more people are not talking about her policies. After all, I think that's the most important thing and literally the best thing that she brings to the table. Okay? In my opinion. She's a terrible campaigner. She's not really exciting as a person. I mean, she's bookish. However, at the same time, I got to give her credit. She does know how to dismantle people when she wants to. Now, I think the biggest mark against her is not backing Bernie Sanders in 2016. A lot of progressives, every time there's a Warren video, you guys point that out. I understand as a fair criticism, right? And also that she might be a little bit of a political opportunist. I've heard that before. And look, I think that's more important than being cringeworthy, having the cringeworthy moments like taking the DNA tests and trying to do the AOC thing on Instagram, drinking a beer. No, just stick to what you know, right? Stick to what you're good at. And that's creating good progressive policy that sticks it to the banks and the corporations on behalf of the American people. Again, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which clawed back millions and millions of dollars, I think billions of dollars, for the American people, the American consumer that corporations ripped off, that will forever be her legacy, right? That is something that she created. And it's unfortunate now that under Mick Mulvaney, it has been absolutely perverted to now help corporations. But look, I'm going to be honest, right? And I know you guys are some of you are probably going to hate me for it, but I actually think that she's a pretty good choice. She'd be my number 2. And I think, why? Because of policy, right? And she sucks on foreign policy. I understand that, right? And so that's why she's second, maybe third, right? I would actually prefer that she become a member of a presidential cabinet, headed up by a progressive president. I mean, imagine her as Treasury Secretary. Oh, could you imagine? Or, look, even HUD Secretary. She, wants to take on housing discrimination. She could do something about higher rents. I mean, she's qualified for a lot of great cabinet positions. And I think she would be an amazing asset for somebody like a President Sanders. Whisper of a dream. Okay. So I'm going to take a break here. We'll come back, do some more stories here, including the Think Progress story, as well as AIPAC. So we'll do that. Leave your comments. I'll read some super chats if I have any, and we'll come back. So leave your comments around the nation. Everybody, welcome to the show. Welcome back to the show, I should say. Around the nation right here, Jeff Waldorf here with you. So I got a lot of interesting comments that I want to read that you guys have told me. Jedi Mullet 77 first for the super chat says the oil companies get over $1 billion a day in subsidies. We spend about $80 to $90 billion a year defending Saudi Arabia just so that we have the privilege of buying their oil. Renewable energy now. So I think that's a great message on that. Absolutely, man. I couldn't agree more. Hey, you want to stop terrorism and war in the Middle East? Get away from oil. But of course, the military-industrial complex and the oil companies and Saudi Arabia really don't want that to happen. So it's a big, big fight on that ahead in there. Now, let's get to some member comments. Jay says, all of them could be part of the cabinet, meaning, and I've seen Gabbard. I've seen, Richard Ojeda for labor secretary, and a lot of great suggestions. I think even Mike Gravel. But that's, I think, another comment here. The Sierra points out in that Fox News poll, Fox News reference poll, there's only about 1,000 folks in that poll. Yes, that's true. And who knows, like, when it comes to Fox News, and I think a lot of polling in general, they tend to overskew on people who are generally older, and generally older people tend to be more in favor of Donald Trump. Let's be honest about that. Sarge Tech says Kellyanne has Trump stench all over her, and she's never going to get it off. You guys remember I was talking about Kirstjen Nielsen yesterday, and how she's basically unhireable. So that's what that is. That's what we mean by that. Trump stench, right? These people are never going to find jobs in politics or business. When you work for Donald Trump, done. You're never going to work anywhere else. And so, well, that was weird. Okay, anyway. Oh, I have another super chat here from Happy Dude. He says, my new wish is to hear Trump say President-elect Sanders on national television. I really enjoyed the show. Keep up the good work. Well, thank you so much, Happy Dude. I appreciate that. Hey, I'm glad to see that you were a happy dude. All right. There's one more here. John Bliss, by the way, not a member comment, but just a random chat comment here. Talks about Mike Gravel. He says, Mike Gravel is running just to keep the debate squarely in progressive issues, the Overton window to the left. And that's why I love that account. And I love that he's, because, look, Mike Gravel's like, I'm not running so I can win. I don't want to win. No, what I want to do is I want to focus a conversation. So that allows him not needing to or wanting to win, but at least to get on the debate stage, basically allows him to say whatever the hell he wants. And what he says is fire. I love it. So if you haven't already, follow that account, Mike Gravel, on Twitter. And look, he recently put out a press statement, F. Tucker Carlson, because he got invited on Tucker Carlson's show, and he's like, no, I'm not going to go on a platform for white supremacists. Screw you, dude. I'm not interested. I will go somewhere else. I'll go to progressive outlets, independent media. That's awesome. So, I love it. Okay. Anyway, let's move on. We got a couple more stories here. Just going to try to take it easy on this Friday. All right. So now the subject of Bernie Sanders' taxes has been something that a lot of establishment Democrats have been really intensely focused on. Right? They want to see the taxes. Bernie, where's Bernie's taxes? Where's Bernie's taxes? Okay, well, I always thought that was a little bit curious. I mean, full disclosure, I would like to see Donald Trump's taxes, right? Now, why is that? It's not because I hate Donald Trump. I do hate Donald Trump, but it's nothing to do with why I want to see his taxes. No, it's because it's either filled with very embarrassing information, like Trump not being as rich as he claims to be, and therefore, again, being proven as a pathological liar, or at worst, evidence of financial crimes. For example, money laundering, tax evasion, things like that. That's why a lot of people want to see his tax returns. Now, for Bernie Sanders, I don't know why so many people are so fixated on the taxes. I mean, for me, yes, he should release them. I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. Who cares? But hey, look, if you're in that camp who does care about this, well, then good news for you. Bernie Sanders just recently announced that he would release his tax returns on April 15th. That's tax day. That makes a lot of sense. Now, he also said that in addition to being boring, that he has crossed the threshold, thanks to some of his book sales and his congressional salary, that he has become a millionaire. Oh, my God. Oh, no, Bernie Sanders, he's a millionaire now. Cue the liberal establishment outrage. Again, mainly establishment liberals have begun attacking Bernie Sanders, who is the Democratic frontrunner, as a hypocrite for making money. Now, a great example of this is this video that recently was released by Think Progress. Watch.
If I'm a millionaire,
for millionaires and billionaires.
for billionaires and millionaires,
For millionaires and billionaires.
A proliferation of millionaires and billionaires. When millionaires and billionaires of millionaires and billionaires. Millionaires and billionaires, 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 millionaires and billionaires. This is a budget of the billionaire class, by the billionaire class, and for the billionaire class. More billionaires in his administration. Billionaires. Billionaires and the wealthiest people.
billionaires and the wealthy, a handful of billionaires
And other billionaires. Billionaires.
allow billionaires, multimillionaires, and billionaires.
Of multimillionaires and billionaires.
If you are a billionaire or in the top 1%, we will be an administration for the working families of this country and not for billionaire campaign contributors.
Oh my God. Can you believe it? Bernie Sanders is rich, and he's still talking about millionaires and billionaires. But wait. He's only talking about the multimillionaires now. Oh, so now that he's a millionaire, he's changing his rhetoric. Really? Really? Now, are you telling me that Bernie Sanders can't actually go after billionaires and millionaires or multimillionaires because he makes money? It's ridiculous. You know, just because you have money doesn't mean you can't criticize the system. See, but there's this whole idea like, oh no, you don't understand. Leftists, well, they hate it when people make money. They can't stand it. And they don't think anybody should be able to make money. Now, look, I believe billionaires shouldn't exist. I think that's a fault of the system, right? But look, if you, for example, write books and people like those books and they buy those books and you end up making money from those books, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. You can criticize the system. And by the way, he does a lot of criticism of the system. And not only that, but he actually wants to change the system. What's wrong with that? Look, Bernie Sanders did not get rich by, for example, giving secret speeches to Goldman Sachs. He did not do that. He did it by selling books, right? Now, not only that, but look, on the speaking fees, right? Bernie Sanders does get speaking fees. Guess what he does? He donates a majority of those to charity. So he didn't get rich by also paying workers a low wage. No, his campaign is actually one of the only, if not the only campaign that's actually unionized. Now, there's another candidate that's actually doing something positive for their staff. That's Julian Castro. Either he's allowing unionization or he's at least paying his campaign staff a living wage, which, look, he gets credit for, right? And give him credit for that. Bernie Sanders is doing both. So now where's the hypocrisy? Bernie Sanders, he's rich. He's criticizing rich people, but he's also rich. Yeah, but guess what? His own policy positions that he has taken would place him in a higher tax bracket, which means if he wins and gets policy passed, he will be taxed more. Wow. But good. Look, it's not about this. It's not about, the taxes. It's not about he's a millionaire, whatever. No, what this is about is that the Center for American Progress, who, basically controls Think Progress, hates Bernie Sanders. And you know who heads the Center for American Progress? Neera Tanden. Neera Tanden is a vocal Sanders critic and a former supporter of Hillary Clinton. And so Neera Tanden, again, she stopped criticizing Bernie Sanders and says, oh, no, I haven't picked a candidate yet. And let's not attack Democratic candidates. And then right after that, here's Think Progress literally attacking the front runner and saying, oh, you can't criticize rich people for also being rich, which is ridiculous. Now, here's the thing, right? The Center for American Progress is a think tank, right? We knew that. Now, CAP is funded by big corporate donors. I wonder why they're attacking Bernie Sanders. Now, back in 2013, by the way, Ken Silverstein, writing for The Nation, wrote this on the donors. Quote, CAP has emerged as perhaps the most influential of all think tanks during the Obama era, and there's been a rapidly revolving door between it and the administration. CAP is also among the most secretive of all think tanks concerning its donors. Most major think tanks prepare an annual report containing at least some financial and donor information and make it available on their websites. This is according to CAP spokeswoman Andrea Pearce. She says the center doesn't even publish a financial donor disclosure list. That's fascinating. Now, they also note, Silverstein does, after growing rapidly in its first few years, tax records showed that CAP's total assets had fallen in 2006 for the first time, from $23.6 million to a total of $20.4 million. Now, assets had started growing again in 2007 after CAP had founded the Business Alliance. So they started losing money, right? They're a think tank. They require money to function, apparently, and fund their initiatives. And so when you see your income start to go down, you're like, oh, crap, we need to find something to help us out. Now, instead of reaching out to regular people, maybe possible, small donors, instead, they founded the Business Alliance. Now, what is a Business Alliance? It is a membership rewards program for corporate contributions or corporate contributors. So, hey, corporations, we're going to give you a reward if you donate to us. Now, what is the reward? I'll get to that. So now they saw their income plummet, and then they saw it to. Then they founded the Business Alliance and saw it start to recover. And in 2008, when Barack Obama was elected, their income exploded. Interesting. Now, the donor pitch describes the Business Alliance, and here's more information on that, as a, quote, channel for engagement with the corporate community that provides the opportunity to collaborate on common interests. And according to the article, there are 3 membership levels with the perks to top donors, $100,000 and up, including private meetings with CAP experts and executives, roundtable discussions with Hill and national leaders, and briefings on CAP reports, quote, relevant to your unique interests. That sounds a lot like buying access to me. Oh no, you donate to us and you get more access. And then we can sit down and have meetings and we can talk about things that are relevant to your interests. Multiple internal lists obtained by Silverstein, by the way, this is around 2011 now, several years after it was founded, showed that dozens of major corporations by that time had joined the alliance. According to these lists, CAP's donors included Comcast, Walmart, General Motors, Pacific Gas and Electric, General Electric, Boeing, and Lockheed. So, again, I wouldn't also be surprised to see some health insurance companies as well as donors are part of this business alliance. Now, the reason that I say that is due to some of their actions. Now, the Center for American Progress recently unveiled a new plan for healthcare. Now, that plan keeps private insurance and creates basically what is known as a public option. I believe it was Medicare for all for some or something. I think Medicare for all extra or something like that. But again, it's not actually Medicare for all. It is basically opening up a public option. Keeps the private insurance companies. And so, I wouldn't be surprised if they were funded by health insurance companies. And it doesn't surprise me, or wouldn't surprise me, why they've taken a stand against Medicare for all. Maybe it has to do with the donors. I'm not sure. Now, still, to have Think Progress attack the Democratic frontrunner for being poor, well, that's different. That's something that we've never seen before. And look, I understand if you want to criticize policy. I'm in favor of that. Or maybe you want to criticize his stance on something. We criticize him for, for example, not speaking out on things like press freedom when it comes to Julian Assange, for example. That's a perfectly valid criticism from the left. If you want to also criticize him for having not the best foreign policy, but a decent foreign policy on certain issues, or not speaking out enough on certain things, fair game, right? Now, going after him because he's slightly wealthier now than he was before, despite him not changing his positions on policy, is ridiculous. And, of course, here's why they're going so hard on him. Now, again, they always hated him. But first, for a long time, he was a joke, right? Oh, nobody cares about that socialist over there. Come on, man. He's never going to win anything. He's crazy. He's for Vermont. We all just leave him alone. But then he closed a 60-point gap with Hillary Clinton and nearly won the Democratic primary. And, of course, during that run, he called out the establishment, right? Called out the people who make money off the backs of other people and didn't share it with their workers. He criticized people that and companies that bought influence, that pay off politicians to lower taxes and regulation, right? So now they're after him because of those things, right? But I think there's another angle that is new, right? And look, most politicians who become millionaires, right, who get into Congress, they become rich. What happens, is that they start towing the line. A great example is Howard Dean. Now, Howard Dean was a progressive, right? Now, Howard Dean's a lobbyist. He's making a lot of money, and he loves the establishment. He hates Bernie Sanders. It turns out that when you become a millionaire in Congress, you are expected, I think, to start looking out for members of your class. Now, Bernie Sanders, he's not doing that. He's not looking out for millionaires and billionaires or multimillionaires, right? He's a class traitor to them. And there's nothing that they hate more than being a class traitor, than one of them trying to overturn their apple cart. No, we got rich from this system. I don't want change. How dare you, Bernie? You're one of us now, right? You're a millionaire. Why won't you change your positions to be pro-rich? God, we have to destroy him. Look, we saw something similar when Elizabeth Warren was elected, right? Now, she campaigned against rich people, right? They told her when she was elected, okay, look, we understand that you had to say those things when you were campaigning, right? You had to kind of campaign as a little bit populist, but now you can shut up about income inequality. You can stop going after the banks. Again, we understand if you use that to campaign, but now, hush, hush, sit down, know your role. You're a junior senator. Well, that didn't happen. Now, Bernie Sanders, same thing. He's not knowing his role. Instead, he continues to be a thorn in the side of the establishment, and they despise him for it. This attack on his finances is ridiculous, right? And it's incredibly weak. Again, Bernie Sanders has never said he hated rich people. He wants to change the system where millionaires and billionaires, yes, can influence politicians, and they often do, and they use that influence to rig the rules against the 99%. Turns out you don't have to be poor to advocate for the poor. FDR did it. Nick Hanauer is doing it. He's a venture capitalist. Bernie Sanders is doing it. The patriotic millionaires are doing it. The argument the establishment is using is against all those people. And it's the same kind of argument that we hear from the right wing when it comes to climate change. I mean, look, at right-wingers all the time. You just go after Al Gore, right? Still go after Al Gore. Oh, look at Al Gore. Believes in climate change, but uses a private jet. Oh, how dare him actually live in society and use things that society has when he supposedly cares about climate change. What a hypocrite. Hypocrite. Oh, look at that AOC Green New Deal, but she's driving a minivan. Oh, hypocrite. Same thing. This is the exact same attack. Exact same attack. It's disingenuous. And it's something that the old think progress. Before all this corporate donors and being basically establishment shills would have called out. They would have called out. It is really super sad to see how far they have fallen since that time. They are not progressive. The Center for American Progress is certainly not progressive. Maybe they should change their name. Excuse me. Got a little cough going on. Okay. One more here. Promised I'd get to it. All right. So Bernie Sanders is a front runner for the Democratic Party, and he is being attacked by not just from the right, but also from lobbyist groups. One of them being AIPAC. Well, now that's interesting because AIPAC supposedly represents Jewish people. And oh, look, Bernie Sanders is Jewish. Now, they did so in some sponsored Facebook posts that urged Facebook users to add their name to an online petition telling Bernie Sanders that, quote, America stands with Israel. Now, what does that even mean? America stands with Israel. So, no, wait, if we don't want to sign that, if he doesn't sign, does that mean he's against Israel? I mean, apparently that is the accusation, right? Now, in reality, of course, Bernie Sanders has been critical of the right-wing government of Israel. And I think that's a big distinction here. Now, according to data from Facebook's ad library, there are 3 versions of this sponsored post paid for by AIPAC that are currently running across the country. Now, it's mainly focused on users in 3 important primary states, California, Texas, and Florida. Now, as The Intercept points out, and in addition to what I've already asked, the text of the post makes no mention of why the lobbying group thinks the independent senator from Vermont needs to be reminded. But its only other current paid ads are against Representative Ilhan Omar. Bernie Sanders, who is Jewish, defended Ilhan Omar against charges of anti-Semitism for criticizing AIPAC. You know how she criticized AIPAC? By calling it a lobbying group. It is a lobbying group on behalf of the right-wing government of Israel. And Senator Sanders, as I said before, has been critical of them, especially for their treatment of Palestinians. In fact, during the 2016 campaign, he called Israel's use of force during the bombardment of Gaza in 2014 that killed at least 1,400 civilians, including 500 children, as disproportionate and indiscriminate. He also told CNN that he favored a more balanced position on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, basically setting up a 2-state solution, which is apparently what we used to believe in Even Republicans used to believe in a two-state solution. Now, pretty much no longer, especially now the right wing in Israel also doesn't believe in a two-state solution. They believe in annexing the West Bank. They believe in continuing to deprive Palestinians of basic civil rights. So, now, again, Sanders points out that, hey, man, look, Israel has a right to live in freedom, independently and in security, without having to be subject to terrorist attacks. But I think that we will not succeed in ever bringing peace to that region unless we also treat the Palestinians with dignity and respect. Okay, look, that's good. That's fair. Makes sense. Palestinians don't live with dignity and respect. They live in an open-air prison. They're being blockaded in. There's a huge youth unemployment. Poverty is rampant. A lot of those reasons are why people join Hamas. I don't agree with that. I think it's stupid. You're never going to have peace if you continue to shoot rockets into Israel. Look, in those rockets, what do you think you're doing with those anyway? Hamas, I mean, seriously. They have literal iron dome. The rockets get shot down anyway, for the most part. But the situation, and like I said, it's not from two even sides. This is an occupation. A few idiots fighting mortars and rockets into Israel usually ends up with Israel doing an extremely heavy-handed response, which ends up leading to more death, more hatred, and that's not good either. Something's got to give here, and Sanders is right. Everybody who's pushing for a two-state solution is correct. We need to treat Israel and Palestinians with humanity and respect instead of building illegal settlements. Israel should not be building those illegal settlements. They should immediately stop and give that territory back. Now, Sanders asked if he would insist on the evacuation of settlements as president. He said, I think if the expansion was illegal, which it is, moving into territory that was not their territory, I think withdrawal from those territories is appropriate. Again, that is a sensible position, one backed up by a lot of young progressive Jewish people. That, of course, got him condemnation from AIPAC and right-wing Jewish Americans. He was even asked in a debate if he was hiding the fact that he was Jewish. Of course not. He said, no, I'm very proud to be Jewish, and being Jewish is part of who I am. And so I am being, it's basically part of who I am as a human being. So what he's doing is he's saying, look, yes, I'm Jewish, but I can be in favor of helping Palestinians and not be in favor of the right-wing government of Israel. And that's something that a lot of establishment Democrats are unfortunately unwilling to do. Now, maybe you can say it's because of the money. That's possible. I actually do think that a lot of these politicians do actually believe that, no, they got to be super tough in favor of Israel no matter what happens, right? We have to stand by Israel. We've got to stand by Israel. And there are people that have genuine beliefs on that. Okay, and of course I think there are some that are influenced by money from lobbying groups. And what's funny is when you call that out, they get super, super offended by it. Weird. They get offended by the idea that money from AIPAC buys influence. And that's why they're charging people like Ilhan Omar with anti-Semitic tropes. Well, just try to do that against Bernie Sanders. See how that works. No, but seriously, I do believe they think that they're doing the right thing. And maybe they feel like, oh, I'm doing the right thing, so I deserve this money, right? That comes in afterwards. I don't know. But again, they get really, really offended when somebody says, hey, look, if you adopt a position thanks to the efforts of lobbying groups, that's not a good thing. How dare you? How dare you? Look, in reality, we know lobbyists influence politicians all the time. That's the whole point. AIPAC is a lobbying group. They influence politicians to take more pro-right-wing government of Israel positions. And so, there it is. Now, Bernie Sanders, a lot of others, don't get money. And so, and in fact, they get money spent against them, as we've currently seen. Right? So now, look, this again, these attacks are again disingenuous, right? Telling and Bernie Sanders that, oh no, he's not standing with Israel, or you need to make sure to remind him who he stands for. No, what he's standing for is human rights, Israeli human rights, as well as Palestinian human rights. Human rights are human rights, right? And that's the thing. If you're standing against the right wing, whether it be the right wing in America, whether it be the right wing in Israel, you're going to get massive attacks against you. The irony here is that it's not going to be effective because, again, Bernie Sanders is correct on the issues. And not only that, but he's also Jewish. So I think that helps him a lot when it comes to these, just deflecting these ridiculous attacks. Okay. All right. That's it. That's all I got for you guys today. Thank you for going around the nation with me. Thank you for the super chats. Thank you for the comments, tweets, etc. Please like and share the stream if you haven't already. Patrons, remember you guys can get the full show if you missed any. Ad-free later on tonight. I'll have it posted. So you want to check that out. All right, guys. Thank you. Love you guys. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. See you on Monday. Have a great weekend.